Hey, welcome back everyone to the Cranjis podcast. This is, I believe, episode 7 of the Cranjis podcast, and we are talking about treating time as currency. And that's because time is currency. Time is the ultimate form of currency. And what that means is, let's say everyone is given 24 time coins per day, right? You wake up every single day with 24 time coins, and it's completely up to you how you choose to spend these time coins. You can spend it scrolling, you can spend it watching Netflix, you can spend it learning a skill, you can spend it building a business. Okay, there's all these ways you can spend your time coins. Now, the only difference is with money, you can make it back. Money comes and goes, right? If you lose £300 today, you might be able to make £300 back tomorrow or more, right? I don't know how, but you could. Time as currency is different because time is limited. Not only do you only get 24 of these time coins a day, right? But as soon as you spend one, it's gone forever. You don't get that coin back. There's no earning that coin back, okay? And time is limited, so eventually there are going to be no more days where you get these 24 time coins. So it's about, it's about choosing wisely what to spend these time coins on, because based off the value that you want to get from these things, okay? This is why successful people are successful. They value time over money. Time is more important than money because what you allocate your time to, you get more value from than what you would allocate just money to. This is why time is the most important currency. Time is the ultimate form of currency, and you choose to spend it however you want. It's super fair, right? Everyone gets 24 hours in a day, so it's the most fair form of currency. Time works like money in the way that there is investing and there is spending. Okay, spending money could look like scrolling or TV or distractions or going to parties, right? Whereas investing could look like building relationships, learning sales, fitness in general. 1 hour spent in investing could result in thousands of hours of freedom in your time, right? So spending your time is just spending it in that moment. Investing your time is spending 1 hour that could result in thousands of hours of freedom. And realistically, freedom is the goal, right? That is what money is for. Time, this is the chain. Time creates skills, skills create value, value creates money, money creates freedom. Time creates skills, skills create value, value creates money, money creates freedom. For example, if you learn sales, that skill creates value, okay? That value creates income. That income buys freedom, okay? Freedom over your time. That is the whole goal of money, because realistically, money is just used to buy back your time, right? That is what money is for. You want to just buy back as much time as you can. This is exactly why billionaires, millionaires, these business owners, whatever, right? They hire different people to allocate their time to, so they're not spending their time doing that. They can now afford to put that time on someone else, so that frees up their time, okay? Because they value time over money, which is what everybody should value. Now, because of the connotations of money, everybody believes it's this be-all and end-all thing. And yes, obviously you need money. Money is nice and money makes everything easier. But it all comes from time, and it all circles back to time. To create money, you have to start with time, right? Time, skills, value, money, freedom. And freedom is the end thing that it circles back to, which is your time. So time is much more important, and what you allocate and dedicate your time to is more valuable than just thinking about money in the short term, because that's not going to buy you freedom unless you start with putting your time into these things. You with me? Now, your life is literally just the sum of what you spend your time on. Your life is the sum of what you spend your time on. So you can spend it on learning, training, building. Okay, your future identity is equal to your time allocation. Future identity equals time allocation. Whatever you allocate your time to, you're deciding what your future identity is going to become based off of that, okay? So, for example, okay, this is an example of how time buys identities, okay? If you spend 3 hours a day, every day, coding, right? you're going to become a coder. And maybe not even in the professional sense of the word. I don't even know if the word's coder, but you're going to become, not necessarily in the professional sense of the word, but that will be your identity, right? A coder. Or if you spend 2-3 hours a day training, physical exercise, right? You're going to become athletic. That will be part of your identity, okay? So time buys identities, and over the years, time compounds into this identity. So it's not an instant thing. It's what you spend your time on over months and years of the time, okay? Over months and years, whatever you're putting an hour into, that compounds into your future identity. Identity equals time allocation times consistency. So the more consistent you are with what you're allocating your time to, that will build your future identity. And you can reverse engineer this to become whatever you want to become. Okay, for example, let's say you want to become an athlete, okay? Time allocation times consistency equals that identity, right? And you've heard it all before, like you have to put the hours in to become an athlete, right, in terms of physical training and mental training. But that's part of the example. If you want to become a really strong business owner, multimillionaire, right, you allocate your time to learning, studying, sales, times consistency, doing all these things on a regular basis, multiple hours a day, you're going to become this successful business owner, right? And if you don't end up having the identity you want, it's because you haven't allocated enough time or been consistent enough with that to be able to merge it into your identity. Okay. The way compounding works in investing your time is just like in investing money. You don't notice it at first. It's a very slow process. And it's only over months and years you would ever notice compounding, right? For example, you spend 1 hour a day doing something. That doesn't seem like much. Okay, if you spend 1 hour a day lifting weights, it doesn't seem like much. And I'm just using exercise as an example because it's an easy example to give. However, that's 365 days. 1 hour a day dedicated to this thing. That's 365 hours a year. And over 3 years, okay, you have, over the time of 3 years, you have over 1,000 hours dedicated to this one thing. If you just put in 1 hour a day every day for a year. In 3 years' time, you'll have over 1,000 hours. That puts you way ahead of everybody else. Well, way ahead of most other people anyway. That is a lot of time dedicated to one thing. And that's compounding your time and investing it into becoming this identity that you want to create. Right? Maybe I didn't explain that too well. The thing is, with most people scatter their time. If you scatter your time, you scatter your identity. Okay? If you dedicate your time narrowly and focused into one thing that you want to become, into one identity, into one idea, into one daily exercise, monthly exercise, whatever, right? Your identity becomes more focused and more clear. But if you scatter your time, you scatter your identity. And that's what most people do, and that's why most people don't have a defined identity. They just do lots of things, right? Every hour spent is casting a vote for the person you become. Every hour you put into something, that is going to show later on down the line, through compounding, that's going to show who you've become, right? The most interesting concept about all of this, that dives way deeper into all of this, though, is something called time arbitrage. Now, time arbitrage is basically the concept that hours aren't equal. The clock time is equal, but the value of the hour is different. For example, person A works a job, scrolls when they get home, right? Scrolls social media, they order takeaway, they go to bed. Okay, over the course of 5 years later, their life looks pretty similar. Okay, person B works a job, spends 2 hours learning something or building something on the side. 5 years later, they've changed the entire trajectory of their life. Okay, and that's purely through they've got the same amount of hours in a day, but person B used time arbitrage. Okay, that is time arbitrage. Using your hours, you both have the same amount of hours, but you use yours in a more valuable way that creates more value and therefore compounds over time and becomes your identity, becomes success, whatever that might look like, right? So person B, both of them had 24 hours, but person B used time arbitrage. If you can understand time arbitrage and use it to your advantage, which is something I can't do yet, but I'm working on it, you will become so powerful and be amongst the 1% in the world, right? Because a lot of people, 99.9% of people, don't understand this concept of time arbitrage and therefore dedicate and allocate their time to different areas of life, or like scatter their time between lots of different areas of life. But if you use time arbitrage and spend each hour of a day very specifically, and everyone has a few free hours of day, right? And even if it's not hours, it's minutes, right? Everyone has at least 20 minutes free of a day. And if you don't, you got a sad life, okay? But 20 minutes used through time arbitrage is so much better than 20 minutes that someone is scrolling. You're beating them, okay? And it's not a game, but it's just a good way to compare it so that you can see where using time arbitrage to your advantage will put you compared to somebody who scatters their time, okay? Now, the real secret is that the richest people don't just work hard. They work on things that can multiply their time. For example, instead of 1 hour resulting in one result, okay, 1 hour equaling one result, they focus their time on making 1 hour equal thousands or potentially millions of results, okay? And this is where all the richest and successful people get their secret. This is their secret, okay? Try and make an hour, instead of it equaling one result, make an hour equal thousands of results. And that's by building something that's going to set you up for life, or set you up for way more hours of time and freedom, okay? Maybe I'm not explaining this too well. But most people don't do that. Most people do negative time arbitrage, okay? And that screws over most of the population, okay? Things that consume time but destroy your future identity. And what do I mean by that? Consuming time on things that destroy your future value is negative time arbitrage, meaning things like endless scrolling, TV and movies, bad diet, avoiding difficult tasks. There's no compounding benefit, right? It's compounding time, but no benefit from that time. And therefore, that's when people end up stuck in dead-end jobs they hate, or not ever fulfilling dreams that they wanted to, because they're not allocating their time correctly and using consistency in order to create time arbitrage and use it to their advantage. I've said arbitrage way too many times in this podcast, and it's really annoying. But I'm trying to drill it into your head, that's why. Successful people understand that time isn't the most important thing. Attention is. Attention is far more important than time, because, like I said, everyone has the same amount of hours in a day, right? Brilliant. We've all got the same amount of time. It's what we choose to focus our attention on that's going to put us ahead in life and going to put us where we want to be, and going to build our future identity, right? And our future position in life. So everybody thinks time is the most important thing, or money is the most important thing. And if you think money is the most important thing, you should be thinking more along the track that time is, for a start. However, once you realize that it's not money and time, and that it's actually attention, your life's going to change. Attention is far more valuable than time. Not more valuable, but it should be something you focus on thinking about more than time, right? Because everybody has the same time, but not everybody has the same attention. So allocate your attention, build compounding time to build your future identity, okay? Like I said, I'm not the best at explaining this right now. I have a few notes, but it's something I think about all the time, using time as currency, and how we can relate time to money and spend time just like life is a market, right? Because life is just a portfolio of time investments. Your life, wherever you end up in life, whatever you're doing throughout your life, it's just a portfolio of how you've invested your time, right? And you can see it in everybody. You can see it in the person who's a fucking vendor at a little food truck. Yeah, maybe they like their job, but that person compared to a successful business owner or a professional athlete, you can see how they've allocated their time. It's just an investment of time, and it's completely your choice how you choose to invest that time. Because I know so many people that will say, oh, they just don't have enough free time. But that's because 2 or 3 hours of their day, they're scrolling on social media, or I don't know why I did that. They're scrolling on social media or watching TV, and they don't count that as free time because that's just habit now. But that is your free time. You can substitute that for more valuable, for time that's for attention focused in places that's going to provide you more value in the future, okay? Like money, the things that are more rare or valuable usually cost a higher time price, because everything has a time price, okay? Life is like a market. Life is this giant market, and everything has a time price on it. And the more valuable, rare things cost a higher time price. Now, that's got to make sense, because it's the exact same concept as money, right? This is why the more rare and valuable things cost more money, right? It's the same with time. So if you want a six-pack or a good body, whatever, that's going to cost a lot more than other things you can dedicate your time to. If you want a shit ton of knowledge, allocate your time to reading, okay? And that's going to cost a high time price. But what people don't realize is a lot of these things have such a lower time price than you realize. For example, the reading one I just said then. Yeah, if you want to be knowledgeable, like one of the most knowledgeable people you could potentially become, that costs a high time price, right? Just like an insane body. However, through compounding, it's not that expensive, because reading 20 minutes a day, that's going to make you so much more knowledgeable through time arbitrage and through compounding. And yet it didn't cost that much. It's just 20 minutes per day of reading or studying or listening to this podcast, right? But if you're choosing to waste that on watching TV, or instead of compounding health, you're wasting that on bad diet and filling your face with shitty takeaways, right? Then that's where you're going to end up. Time is currency, and time is the most fair currency. We all have 24 hours. We just have to choose what we focus our attention on. Attention is far, far, far more valuable than money. Okay, anyone in the world can invest in health, relationships, skills, knowledge. It's up to you, okay? So there's no advantage or disadvantage in terms of time as currency, because we all have the same amount of time. Yeah, maybe not in terms of life, but day to day. And there are little exceptions, obviously. But what I'm saying is, in theory, everyone has 24 hours in a day, and we can choose what we spend those hours focused on, right? We can choose the things we focus on in those hours. Time arbitrage. Okay, so if there's only one thing you remember and take away from this entire podcast episode, and I know I've been rambling a bit, I've been out of this for a bit, I haven't done it for over a week, so usually I film a lot of these close together, and I'm in the swing of it. I haven't filmed this for over a week, so now I'm just getting back into the flow of talking to the camera like this. However, if there's one thing you take away from this entire podcast, it's that time is not the most important thing. Attention is. Okay, so choose what you spend your time on, and choose what you focus your attention on, and use time arbitrage and compounding and investing your time to build the identity you want to build and build the person you want to become. So I appreciate you guys all for watching and for being here still if you are. I know I rambled on a little bit, but like I said, I've been out of this for like a week, and I'm just like getting back into the flow of talking to the camera. But I love all of you if you're still here. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for supporting. Remember, attention is more valuable than time. Love you all. See you next week. Same day, every Wednesday, baby. The Cranjis podcast. Let's go. Cheers, guys. Appreciate you.